Welcome back to Major Antonio's presentation of An Inquiry into the Permanent Causes of the Decline and Fall of Powerful and Wealthy Nations, by William Playfair. Chapter 7.
In the career of wealth, in its early state, when individual industry is almost without any aid from capital, men are as nearly on an equality as the nature of things can admit. But, in proportion as capital comes in to the aid of industry, that equality dies away, and men, who have nothing but industry, lose their means of exerting it with advantage. Some become then incapable of maintaining their rank in society altogether. At the same time that this is taking place, articles of every sort that are necessary for the existence of men are becoming dearer. As some ranks of society have been described as bringing up their children not to know the existence of necessity, others, who are depressed below the natural situation of men, are bringing them up to feel the extreme pressure of want. There is no situation of things in which a man, with natural strength and a very slender capacity, may not gain sufficient to maintain himself, if he will be industrious. But, in a wealthy country, numbers are so pressed upon by penury in their younger years that neither the powers of their body nor of their mind arrive at maturity. Accustomed from an early age to depend rather upon chance or charity for existence than upon industry or energy of their own, they neither know the value of labor, nor are they accustomed to look to it for a supply to their wants. Whilst the foundation of idleness and poverty is laid in, for one part of a nation, from the affluence of their parents, another portion seems as if it were chained down to misery, from the indigence in which they were born and brought up. The depressed and degraded populace of great and wealthy cities are not the accidental victims of misfortune. They are born to its hard inheritance, and their numbers contaminate more, who, were it not for their own misconduct and imprudence, might have shared a better lot. When nations increase in wealth, the fate of individuals ceases to become an object of attention, and of all the animals that exist and are capable of labor, the least value is set upon the human species. Like individuals who rise to wealth and forget their origin, societies forget the first foundation of all wealth, happiness and power. That individuals should do so is not to be wondered at. They never saw society in an infant state, nor is it the business of individual citizens to occupy themselves with public affairs, but those who are entrusted with their management, and whose business is to know the original sources of prosperity, ought to attend to and counteract this growing evil. When the Romans were poor, the people depended on exertion and they enjoyed plenty, but when Lucullus and other citizens were squandering millions at a single banquet, the people were clamoring for bread. While the person of a Roman lady was ornamented with the wealth of a province, the multitude were covered with rags and depressed with misery. It would have been no hard matter, then, to have foretold the fate of Rome. The natural order of things was deranged to too violent an extreme to be of long duration. The state was become like a wall that had declined from the perpendicular, while age was every day weakening the cement by which it was held together. And though of the time and hour of destruction no man knew, the event was certain. It would, at first sight, appear that great cities are the only places in which misery of this description arises, but that is not the case. Great cities are the refuge of the miserable, who perhaps find it in some shapes augmented by a residence in so friendless an asylum. But there they avoid shame. They see not the faces that have smiled upon them in better days. They are more at ease amongst strangers, and they are kept in countenance by companions in penury and want. In every wealthy nation, the rich shun the view of wretchedness, which is attended with a silent reproach. Those who have property mistrust the honesty and blame the conduct of those who have none. In this state of things, the country affords no retreat nor residence, and want and wretchedness find the evils of a crowded society, where they pass unnoticed, much more tolerable. In most countries, the law has taken precautions to punish or to stop the evil in the individual, but in no great and wealthy country has it been thought of sufficient importance to take effectual means to prevent it. In small states, when society is new and under some absolute sovereigns, remarkable for their penetration, genius, and love of their people, A momentary stop has been put to this career of misery. But in the first place, there has been no such monarch in any wealthy country. And in the second, as soon as power fell into other hands, the progress has begun again where it left off. One great cause of the increase of mendicity is the increase of unproductive laborers, as a state becomes more wealthy, who, dying before their children are able to provide for themselves, increase the number of the indigent. Men living by active industry naturally marry at an early age. Menial servants, revenue officers, and all those who administer to the gratifications of a wealthy and luxurious people marry later in life. And besides their not having an industrious example to set before their children, are torn from them sooner by the course of things. It has been noticed that in every society, as wealth increases, hospitality dies away, and those good offices interchanged between man and man, to which life owes many of its comforts in a less advanced state of society, and which protect individuals from the frowns of fortune, gradually disappear. The social feelings become less active, and men turn selfish and interested, thinking for themselves and careless for the community, while, on the other hand, the causes for poverty increase. On the other, the means of relief are misapplied, neglected, or squandered away. The funds that ought to be administered with disinterestedness and integrity are committed to the hands of men who live on the general misfortune, and thus the wretched who are relieved are not fairly treated, while the public that is burthened with their misfortunes is loaded far beyond its proper degree. The population of a country is diminished in a double ratio as the poor increases. They create nothing, but they consume, and if a country sees 1/10 of its population living on charity, it is equivalent at least to seeing 1/7 diminished in numbers altogether. Most sorts of labor require those employed in it to have some capital, such as decent clothes or tools or money to live upon till wages are due. Little as that capital is, yet thousands are reduced to absolute beggary for want of it, their industry finding no means of exertion. A man becomes dependent on charity for existence, and though able to work, eats the bread of idleness, and that without being in fault. The number of persons absolutely unable to labor is nearly the same in every country, and is not much augmented by its wealth, so that if there were, as there easily might be, always employment for those who would otherwise be entitled to relief, and if they were allowed a fair price for their labor, they would then cease either to be a burthen to themselves or to the public. Little coercion would, in this case, be necessary. A few proper regulations to prevent theft and losses would be all that could be wanted with those who could labor, and those who could not, being few in number, would be provided for in a better manner than when they can be, where their portion is shared with those who are able to procure for themselves an existence. We must by no means look for relief in cases of this sort from difficult or intricate management and regulation. If we look at the nature of things, it points out the way. Those that cannot labor are the only persons who ought to be a burthen on the public, and they are the only ones that would be so if the matters were properly regulated and attended to. As it is in most countries, there are many who cannot get work to do, and those are provided for in different ways, but always at the expense of the public. Sometimes it is by a regular assessment, sometimes by theft and depredation, sometimes by individual charity, or those other means to which a man has recourse before he will absolutely starve for want. Those who, from philanthropy, are for relieving all, soon find themselves deceived and unable to proceed. Those who, disgusted with the vices of a few, consider them all as equally culpable, are much to blame. Surely, the individual case of a fellow creature in misfortune is worth attending to, and he must be ignorant indeed who cannot, in most instances, avoid deception.
Chapter 8.
As the increase of capital in every country is the consequence of former productive industry, so also is it the support of future exertion. When the capital of a country has become sufficient for all the employment that can be procured for it, the first effect is the lowering of interest, which sinks down under the rate appointed by law and under the rate at which it is lent out at in other countries. When capital is not in sufficient quantity, those who want to borrow are more numerous than those who have money to lend. Then the competition is amongst the borrowers to obtain the preference, and they all give as high an interest as the law allows, and would give more if they could avoid the penalty, which in all countries has been attached to accepting more than the regulated sum, a sum regulated merely to prevent the effect of competition, which might induce people to give more than in the end they would find they could afford to pay. When capital becomes overabundant, the very reverse takes place. The lenders become rivals and offer to lend at an under rate of interest. The first effect of this is that people who were but scantily supplied with capital before borrow and carry on business more at ease, so that more capital is employed in business and new employments are found out for capital. The usual employments for a superabundant capital are improving lands, building houses, erecting machines, digging canals, etc., for the use of trade, and finally, giving longer credit to merchants in other countries, as well as to those who are running in debt in their own. The stock on hand in manufactured goods increases something also. But when all these have taken place, to as great an extent as wanted, then the money begins to flow into other countries. By degrees, more money is sent away than should go, and the persons who are the proprietors of it frequently follow. If the capital that leaves a country were only that which cannot find employment in it, the harm would not be great, though it would tend to enrich other countries and bring them nearer a level. But that is not the case. The advantage of lending money abroad, if regularly paid at a higher interest than can be obtained at home, induces people to draw their money from trade and vest it in the hands of foreigners. The Venetians, the Genoese, the Dutch, the Hanseatic towns, and the cities of Flanders did this, and the capital, which, when employed at home, formerly maintained perhaps 100 people in affluence and industry, only supported one single family living in indolence and splendid penury. After being in possession of money for a considerable time, men prefer a certain employment at a low interest to one attended with risk, even where the interest is higher. And when great sums have been got by trade, those who have got them retire and live on the interest, which men who have only gained a small capital cannot do. There are many other circumstances besides the abundance of capital that tend to carry it away from a wealthy country. The depreciation of money that takes place in every country that grows rich falls nearly all on the lender at interest, who, as he cannot bring back things to their former value, seeks enjoyment in another country and obtains by change of place what he lost by lapse of time. The weight of taxes is another cause that drives capital from wealthy to poorer countries. And last of all, in case of anxiety or of mistrust, the capitalists are generally the first to emigrate. Anxiety and mistrust are periodical amongst a wealthy people. As the burthens sustained by a people in prosperity are generally great, in proportion to their capital and industry, it is clear that when capital and industry diminish, the burthens, which do not admit of being diminished in the same proportion, fall more heavily on those who remain. This increased cause produces naturally an increased effect. Thus, like a falling column, the weight increases, and the momentum becomes irresistible. It is then that necessity, the spur to industry in new and rising nations, that spur which taxes and rent continue to excite, for the good of mankind for a certain period, begins to crush what it had raised and to stab where it formerly stimulated. Then it is that the moneylenders, who at first sent off their capital, having ceased to be engaged in trade, withdraw by degrees and rather content themselves with a diminished income in another country than struggle with the difficulties they find they have to encounter in their own. It is difficult to say at what point this would stop if the effect produced did not affix the boundary. The prices of land, of rent, of houses, and of provisions sink low and induce some people to remain, for as those articles cannot be transported or carried off and are always worth possessing and enjoying, it is clear there must be a term set to the decay and emigration by the nature of things. Unfortunately, for countries that have been great, that term does not seem to arrive till it is reduced far below the level of other nations. There are, however, some peculiar causes that operate in some modern nations in counteracting this effect, so far as it is occasioned by a superabundance of capital. But as this is not general to all nations, The proper place for speaking of it will be when we come to treat of the tendency of capital to quit this country. The effects arising from that depreciation of money, which takes place in every wealthy country, are great and numerous, and have been always found where wealth abounded. The people in such countries can easily command the labor of others that are not so rich, but the others cannot afford to pay for theirs. This tends to remove industry. On the other hand, if a supply of the necessaries of life are wanted in a rich country, they may be obtained from countries where the value of money is less without throwing prices out of their level. Whereas in the country where money is of great value, that is not the case. The price of bread, for instance, is at Paris 1 penny the pound, and in London at 8 pence the quartern loaf, which weighs just 4 French pounds. The price is exactly double. If everything was conducted in a fair way, corn from all countries, where it is equally as cheap as in France, might be brought and sold in London at the usual market price. But before Paris could get a supply from London, the bread would cost 3 times its usual price. This circumstance, if properly managed, might be turned to advantage. Why it is not is difficult to say, and is a proof that there are either regulations or practices without regulation that counteract the true nature of things, for it would not cost a farthing a pound to bring the corn from Paris to the London market. Paris is only mentioned here for the sake of comparison and because the average prices have nearly the proportion of 1 to 2. The reasons why corn is not brought from thence are no secret, but the same reasoning will apply to American corn, corn from Barbary or the Baltic, and from other places where the value of money is greater than in England. The principle of the other effects of the depreciation of money are to be found in the chapter on the exterior. Causes of the decline of nations, as it is in its foreign transactions that the depreciation of money is the most felt. In the interior, that depreciation only acts when there is a considerable lapse of time, during which the value has altered. It has, in general, no effect on transactions that are begun and finished within a short period, and in the interior of the country itself. The depreciation of money, wherever it takes place, would cause an increase of taxes, even if there were no other reason for it, but in so far it counteracts itself by making them to be more easily borne. Whatever its particular effects may be, and however complicated they are, the general tendency of the depreciation of money is to depress industry in that country and to encourage it in others where the value is greater than in it.
This concludes today's reading of An Inquiry into the Permanent Causes of the Decline and Fall of Powerful and Wealthy Nations, by William Playfair. Join us also the day after tomorrow for the subsequent part. Subscribe to Major Intonio's channel. Thank you for listening, and so long.